Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Kevin Young, and I am going to be your instructor for Admin 262 Introduction to the Gaming Industry. So, as promised, I'm doing this video for you today to essentially give you a walkthrough of the course, and it's not really about the content, rather about uh, the ingredients that you need to be aware of in order to be successful in the course. So, a couple things. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I've been with First Nations for 2 to 3 years now. This is the first time that I'm teaching this course. Uh, but as you may have noticed in my welcome note, I used to be the HR director for a First Nations casino just north of Winnipeg. So I did that for a couple of years. And actually, that was my first time working in hospitality and gaming. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, there were pros and cons. It worked out to 900 kilometers. That's over 5 days of commuting. Because I live in Winnipeg and I live in the south end of Winnipeg, and I had to drive north of the city by, I think it's half an hour north of the city. So it worked out to 1 hour each way. So it was 2 hours of driving every day, which is why it was almost 1,000 kilometers a week of driving. But it was a great experience working with hospitality and gaming, and specifically within that particular resort where there was a relatively large casino as well as a hotel. And for those of you interested in pursuing a career in that, I'd be happy to share my experiences and anything that I can do to if you move in that direction. Certainly, we'll do that for you. So I'm going to share my screen here and take you to the course homepage. So this is it. And as you can see, it's pretty basic. You can't scroll very far, which is exactly how I like it. I don't like these web pages that go on and on and on. So we've got the banner, my email, we have announcements. So welcome to the course, as you can see there, as well as a note about me creating a video for the course. And the other one here is this called the other header is called group work assignments, and uh, and so this is all about uh, if you're interested in doing any of these assignments within a group. Um, I think off the top of my head, I think there are 5 assignments, and I think 4 of them you can do within the group if you so wish. So as you can see, assignments in this course can be done individually or in groups, with the exception of the final exam that needs to be done individually. And if you're interested in working within a group, which is up to 4 students maximum, please post here. You'll find teammates. Okay. And if you are working in a group, uh, only one assignment needs to be submitted for the whole group. Okay, not everyone needs to be submitting the same assignment. So as you can see, we have one student, Joseph, who has posted here. Thank you very much, Joseph, for showing the initiative, and he did so on Monday, January 6th. So good for him for jumping into the course so quickly. There are, as most of you would know, there are advantages and disadvantages to working within groups. Um, One major advantage is you get to hear from other people and what they think from course readings and et cetera, and their own life experience, et cetera. Um, Another advantage, you get to cut down on the amount of work that you do because obviously if you have I don't know, a 12 paper and If you're doing it on your own, you have to write 12 pages. If you're doing it in a group of four, then each person writes three. So you can down the amount of work that you do, and that's advantageous. Of course, the downside, or at least one of the major downsides to working in a group, is coordinating the work and reaching people and all these kinds of things. And that's not something I can help with. So if, in other words, if you're interested in working within a group, you post and you try to find other students who are interested in writing uh, these assignments within groups. Um, and that's what you have to do. Reaching out to me saying, "Oh, I'm trying to reach Joseph and he's not getting back to me." There's really not a lot I can do here, right? This is the this is the first time, not only that I have taught this course, uh, but uh, it's the first time that I'm trying out an asynchronous course, which is what this is. I'll explain that in a second. An asynchronous course with potential group work. I teach another asynchronous course and there's no group work at all. This one, I was hesitant whether I should allow for the possibility of group work. And I thought, you know what, we'll give it a shot. Now, back to asynchronous. So asynchronous simply means that you and I have no set schedule. We don't meet every Monday, right? There's no set schedule. This is a self-driven, hence asynchronous. That's what that means. So, unlike a synchronous course, where we would meet every Monday at 6, and I would see all of you in class, and I would be able to assign teams. Uh, you know, that situation in those kinds of situations, as an instructor, it's quite a bit more control. But in an asynchronous course that you sign up to kind of work at your own pace and work independently, I don't have any control over that, nor do I want to. People who want to do the work on their own at their own pace, I respect that. That's one of the reasons that people take a course like this, asynchronous. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be very interested to see how many people are jumping onto working within groups. And if it's successful, then I may include group activity within future asynchronous courses. Um, so we'll see. Anyways, point being, if you're interested in working in a group, go to the group work assignments, post your name, say that you're interested, and see if other students are posting as well, and then start making your teams. Remember, maximum four, right? To a group. And then I wish you all the best. But again, I can't really get involved if you're having difficulty reaching someone and to work on your group. And at some point, you might have to decide, well, the group isn't working, and we got to move forward, and that person who's not participating will be stuck on their own. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. Um, you scroll down, you can see these tiles. Week 1, week 2, week 3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So you click on the tile and it's got a bunch of stuff, right? You've got introductions, click on that. We got a whole bunch of students who are saying, hey, you know, and talking about themselves, which is exactly what I wanted. So fantastic. Thank you to all of you who have done that. We have the course outline or course syllabus. We have APA, American Psychological Association. That has to do with how you write your papers. An APA sample paper, just so you can see what it looks like. A grading rubric, and then a list of course assignments. And let me just see here. Okay. So this is just making all of you aware of what I've already mentioned, which is assignments can be completed individually or within a group. And that's all this is. Okay. So We've already mentioned it, and so just reinforcing that. Uh, by far, the most important document in any course is the course outline or course folder. So we're going to click on this, going to download. It's a Word document. Open this up and make it a little bit bigger here. There we go. All right. So name of the course. We've got my contact information, my email address. There is no required textbook for this course. So yay for you. You don't have to spend any money. Um, and then we got the course objective. So, an introduction. Where's the gaming industry in Canada? And we consider gaming history, legislation, policy, social responsibility, as well as the future of gaming in both First Nation and non-First Nation communities. Information on economic, legal, and social aspects with gambling and commercial gaming is combined with assigned readings, assignments, and case studies to give you a solid foundation for those of you who plan to pursue a specialization in hospitality, tourism, and gaming entertainment management. Well, we've got the link for the course homepage. Everything under format we're going to cover when we move down to the course schedule, which is further down in this document. And basically here we have some rules. These rules are extremely important to follow. So you have to, you should read all of this. The sections that are highlighted in yellow are even more. The first section highlighted in yellow is don't cheat, don't plagiarize, don't take someone else's information stuff as your own. Um, don't use artificial intelligence to get it to write papers. Uh, there is detection software. I've caught students before who've used artificial intelligence. It's a zero, and not only is it a zero, um, the student is referred over to administration for other potential consequences, which do include not graduating. So it's just not worth it. Don't cheat. Do your own thing. Write your own materials. And if you do want to use artificial intelligence, maybe reach out to me and make sure you're using it the way it's intended to be used within an academic setting, uh, because you don't want to get caught. It's absolutely not worth it at all. Okay. Um, we have the section on late assignments. So every day that you miss a deadline, you lose 10%. Now, that's actually quite generous because other academic institutions give you an automatic zero if you miss a deadline. Uh, that said, 10% every day is late, every day it is late, adds up very quickly. So if the deadline is a Monday and you hand it in on Friday, then Tuesday, 10%, Wednesday, 10%, Thursday, 10%, and depending on when you hand it in on Friday, it could be even Friday, 10%. Even if it's not, you lose 30%. That is a very, very large chunk of a grade. So don't miss deadlines. Submit by the deadline or submit in advance of the deadline. Um, and the only exception that I make is for students who have letters of accommodation that have been sent to me by the university. And for any student who has a letter of accommodation, it is your responsibility to reach out to me before a deadline to discuss if the deadline needs to be changed. Um, and that's it. That's the only exception. So if you are a student and you don't have a letter of accommodation, it's 10% that comes off every day that you miss a deadline. Um, it doesn't matter the circumstances. If you are a student who has a letter of accommodation, you have to reach out to me before the deadline. You can't reach out to me after the deadline and say, oh, well, I have a letter of accommodation, so, I can change the deadline. No, 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 it's got to be done in advance. Okay. And one of the reasons that this is in place and it's really the most important one, is in the workplace, if your boss asks you to do something and gives you a deadline and you miss the deadline, number one, your boss is not going to be happy. Number two, they could, if they wanted to, they could fire you, depending on how important that deadline was. So this is trying to get as close as possible to real life. Now, could have made it zero, um, but I decided it would be 10% every day late. Okay. And as I said, it adds up and it adds up fast. So don't miss lines. Okay. Um, we scroll down. There is a writing resource center that can help you if you're interested. So reach out to them. And we have specialized accommodations. Reach out to that office if you need to. And then the assignments and how they're graded. So in this course, we have two case studies, each worth 15%, so a total of 30. We have a gaming policy discussion paper worth 20%, a research paper worth 20%, and a final exam worth 30%. Uh, the case studies, gaming policy discussion paper, and the research paper, all of that can be done within groups if there are students who are interested in working with groups and within groups. And keep in mind, the maximum is four, but you can be in a group of three or in a group of two if you want. It's just that the maximum is four because history has taught me as soon as you go over four and you have five students or six students, you tend to have a few students doing a little more work than the others. And so four is kind of an optimal number. You need to submit every single one of these assignments because if you miss even one, you get an N key, which is not passed. Okay. So even if you're late, better to hand it in late than not at all because you'll get an N. Finally, in black, bold, and yellow, in-text citations and references following the APA writing style are required for all assignments. Course readings and viewing materials will be the sources of your citations. Additional sources outside of the class materials are also required to support your critical thinking. If you don't know what in-text citations and references and APA are, don't worry. I'll explain it. Okay. But you need to do it. Okay. I will explain it. Now we're going to scroll down to the course schedule. This is gold. You need to know this. Right? Got all the deadlines in the assignments and readings, etc. So it's broken down by week. We are now week one, being January 11. Introduction to gaming, and it says the course outline, which is this, and expectations, right? Then it goes on week two, history of gambling, three First Nations casinos in Saskatchewan, and so forth and so forth and so forth, right? On the right-hand side are the assignments. So you can see week one, week two, week three, week four, there's nothing. Nothing is due. Yay. That's awesome. But don't don't just say, well, I don't have anything due until February 3, so I'm just going to sit back, relax, and not do anything until February 2nd. You shouldn't do that. You'll create a panic. And I used to do that when I was younger. So you don't want to do it. So, start with the readings, start watching the videos, et cetera, et cetera. And if possible, start working on this case study well before February 3. It doesn't have to be this week, but there's a lot of time, quite a bit of time between now and February 3, right? That's several weeks. So my strong suggestion is get in the habit of working a little bit in advance. And that way you won't leave everything until the last minute. You'll end up in a panic. You'll reach out to me and you'll ask me for an extension, and I will say no. And you get it, right? So the very first assignment that you have due is case study one, February 3 at 4 p.m. Um, and February 3 is a Monday. Okay. All right. So we go down. I mean, this is how it's set up. It's very straightforward. You've presumably seen this before. Week by week by week, you have winter break, February 17 to 23, which really doesn't impact you because it's an asynchronous course. The next assignment that you have due is the gaming policy paper, and that is due, and that is week 9. So there's quite a gap between the first assignment that is due February 3rd and the next assignment that is due March 3rd. There's a month in between. And again, working in advance. Okay. If there's a disadvantage to how this is set up is that you have a tremendous amount of freedom between certain assignments, and freedom can usually get students into trouble because they wait until the last minute. The next assignment is case study number 2, which is due March 17. Then the research paper is due March 31st. And finally, the final exam is due April 19th. Okay. So this is the course outline. Very important, which includes, of course schedule. So I'm going to close the course outline. And here we have these two documents called APA. One's a sample paper, and it's just called APA. APA stands for American Psychological Association. It's it's a style. It's how to write um, academic papers. And so we open it up, and it gives you some information on what APA is. Um, and so, typically speaking, the APA format is 8.5 by 11 paper, great, 1 inch margin, top and bottom and sides. Every paragraph, indent the first words. Use Times New Roman, size 12, double space the paper, so no single line spacing, and set the text left aligned. So, I'm fine if you don't want to use Times New Roman. If you prefer Arial or some other font, that's fine. Um, and it doesn't even have to be size 12. I just need to be able to read it. So it's fine. Um, and the most important bit of information in these 2 pages is really this here, this intake citation. And so what this is to sum up, what is an intake citation? It's a way of acknowledging um, that you're using information that you didn't come up with, that you have learned information from someone else, and you're giving credit to that person when you take their information and you put it into your paper and sign it with your name. So an in-text citation looks like this. In parentheses, field, which is the last name of an author, comma, 2005, the year of publication of fields or article or whatever it is. And so that's an in-text citation. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this APA sample paper, paper that I wrote in a group um, many years ago, back in 2012, and I think there were 4 of us in this group, and so we wrote this paper, and it was on Sir Richard Branson. So if you take a look just at the very first paragraph, right, goes on, and look at that. There's an in-text citation right here. So Gallo, 2011. So basically, what this is telling you is the person, and it could have been me. So let's just assume it was me. Let's assume that I wrote this paragraph. Okay. So what it's saying is that this is all my writing, but the sentence that comes right before Gallo That's information that I learned from Gallo, from reading Gallo's article. And so I didn't want to just put that in there and say, mine. So I read it, and obviously it says Branson is commonly known to promote and offer a greater vacation days, flex time, and paid time off than other companies. So I read it, knew it came from Gallo, and I thought, I'm going to use this information, but I want to make sure I give credit to Gallo. So I put the citation in and I put the year of publication, uh, which was 2011. So that's an in-text citation. And it's expected in the course to use in-text citations in every paper that you write. And all of your in-text citations will look more or less like this, especially if they're a short citation, just one or two lines. If it becomes longer, then you can actually create a paragraph and separate it from the initial paragraph. But specifically speaking about in-text citations, they will mostly look like this with the last name of the author, the year of publication. However, if you are directly quoting word for word out of another source or out of a source of information, you have to include a page number after the year that we're taking after this 2011. So you would just put a comma and then 812. So what that means is if this sentence is word for word what I read in Gallo's article, then I would put a page number right after that 2011. And that's for direct quotes, word for word. But if I'm using my own words and then putting in the information, then I don't have to put a page number. Okay? So we scroll down and what are we seeing? We're seeing that every paragraph has a citation. There you go. There's another one. Here's another one. There's another one. So was a guide not a bad idea if there's a citation every paragraph. It doesn't have to be. And certainly you can have more than one citation in a paragraph. The downside to having too many is that if you have a paragraph and you've got 5 citations in it, then it's not really going to be your writing. You're going to be taking a whole bunch of information from other authors and doing that. So that's not advised. You could potentially have too many citations in a paragraph. So, but that being said, aiming for one citation per paragraph, maybe not a bad idea. Right? And yes, there will be paragraphs where you have no citation. Um, but the whole purpose, if you're asking yourself, well, why do we have to do this? Like, why do we have to include in-text citations? Why can't I just read something and write a paper? Well, number one, you don't want to plagiarize. So if you are reading a book and you're taking information from the book and putting it into a paper with your name on it, you don't want to be stealing, pretending that these ideas are yours, and that would be plagiarism. So you definitely want to make sure you're giving credit where credit is due. Secondly, um, if I asked you to write a paper on your last vacation, you could do that, no problem. And you don't need to include any in-text citations, right? You write a paper on everything you did, et cetera, et cetera. There's not a lot of critical thinking going on. You're just reciting information that you have in your head. But when I ask you to read a book or an article or watch a video, I'm asking you to absorb that information, understand that information, and then I'm asking you to take that information and blend it with what you already know from your life experiences, blend it into something that you can then write about. And that, critical thinking, it's expanding your thinking, it's expanding your base, right? And it's very different from me asking the question, what color is the sky? Well, I think the sky is blue because I look up in blue. There's not a lot of critical thinking going on. But if I asked you to do some research and ask you, why does the sky appear blue, then you can apply some of that research, and that's where the critical thinking comes in. Okay? So these are in-text citations. Now, what are references? References are found at the very end, always on the very last page. So you would never put references on the same page as some of your writing. You would wait until you hit the very last page. You create a new page for references, just like this, and you put your authors in alphabetical order, and you put the title of the article. And in a lot of cases, because of the internet, because the information is so accessible, this is why you see this retrieved October 11 or retrieved October 12 or whatever, as well as a link to the source on the internet. So these are references. Okay? References, not in-text citations. Sometimes students mix those up. In-text citations are what you saw further up on the paper, in parentheses, the last name of an author, plus a year of publication, and maybe a page number. That's an in-text citation. References is what you see here. Sources, where you found the information by alphabetical last name, and including the links or what have you insofar as where you found the information. Okay, so that is a sample APA paper. The close, and there is a grading. So we take a look at this. Open. This gives you an idea of what to target. So for an excellent paper that ranges between 80 and 100%, you're seeing on the left-hand side, understanding the situation, theory, application, and analysis, as well as presentation. So excellent is between 80 and 100. And if you do, these things here, then hopefully you can get within that range. Now, I do have to say, I rarely give 90s. So typically the highest grade is going to be in the 80s. So that's important for you to consider because once you get in the 90s, you're talking perfection, like everything, not spelling errors, you know, it's just perfection. And typically, with perfection comes above and beyond. There's innovation, there's creativity. It's going above and beyond the assignment instructions to get into that zone. So this is the grading rubric that you can take a look at before you start writing your papers. And we close week one and move to week two, right? And you can see various links. Obviously, on this screen, you can see there's some things that are hidden depending on content not being relevant or outdated or what have you. Week three, you can see many different links, right? And so forth and so forth. So one of the things that I tell students is when you have a little bit of time, come to the course homepage, just on the tiles, just explore, just spend some time navigating so that you're comfortable finding information. Because ultimately, there are always students who reach out to me the day before a deadline saying, I don't know where to find this. What am I supposed to do? So if you remember on the course schedule, your very first assignment was due February 3rd, week 5. Well, guess where that assignment is? It's in week 5. So if you click on it, there it is, case study, right? So you click on the case study and here it says it's due February 3rd. And it says this assignment may be completed individually or in a group. It's on to say APA style, double space, point, Times New Roman. Again, if you want to write Times New Roman, it's fine. If you want to use a different font, that's fine with me. And then, of course, in-text citations, etc. And then there's a document. for you to read. And then furthermore, if you back out, right below case study one, case study instructions. And so you open up that Word document and it gives you instructions on what you are supposed to do for that case study. Okay. So, I'd say 50% of the battle is just being comfortable with this software and navigating in and out and knowing. And I can't stress it enough. Doing this in advance, right? Meaning today, you have time. Oh, click on week one, click on week two, click on week three. Look at the various links and mark down when things are due, as opposed to, well, today's January 11th, and I've done week one, and I'll wait a few days, and then I'll go and I'll look at week two, and then around January 19, which is the end of week two, then I'll look at week three. Like if you do it that way, then you could run into a problem where you know you're just not on top of it as much as you could be. But if you take the time in advance, because your first assignment isn't due until February 3rd, you've got a few weeks, and even by February 3rd, once you submit that assignment, your next assignment isn't due until March 3rd. So you've got a lot of time in between to just explore and determine, oh, yeah, I've got to have read this. And, I actually have to have this ready and et cetera, et cetera. Not to mention, if you do want to work within a group, you should post, right, as quickly as possible. So you start talking with other people in order to work within those groups. If I was a student in this class, I think I would want to work within a group, because, I gave that example of a 12-page paper. If you got four people working on it, you can down the amount of time you spend on writing the paper. That being said, as mentioned, there are some cons to working with a group. You can learn from that. And not to mention as well that if you're working with other students, you can off their experiences. And it's a little more fun. It's like, just working individually, working within a group is more engaging, generally speaking. So there you have it. Um, that's the course. That's my advice. I'm available 7 days a week through email, so you can email me anytime if you have any questions or concerns or what have you. And you work at your pace. You work at your own pace by going ahead and reading and watching videos, et cetera, et cetera. And you know, I truly hope that you have a fantastic experience within this course and learning about the history of gaming and where it is today. Um, insofar as those of you who are interested in actually pursuing a career, I'm not sure based on market how much availability there is insofar as employment. But what I can tell you is casinos make money. They make a lot of money. And anything that makes a lot of money is not going away. So Manitoba has a lot of casinos, Saskatchewan has a lot of casinos, and therefore I suspect there are a lot of employment opportunities within these casinos because they generate a tremendous amount of revenue, not only for government but also for privately owned casinos, such as First Nations owned casinos. So please reach out to me if you have any questions at any point through the course. Um, please jump in to week one at least at this point. Read the course outline, learn about APA, and if you have a little time navigating through the other aisles, taking a look at when things are due and jotting down those important dates and taking a look at the instructions for the other assignments, the case studies, the gaming policy paper, um, and then, based on those instructions, if you do have questions, reach out to me. And I wish you all the best. I'm always around, so we can always chat. That's it for today. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and please reach out if you have any questions at any point. I'll stop sharing at this point and close the video and look forward to working with all of you over the next couple of months. Bye for now.